This isn't the first time the papers have gotten involved in the stadium debate. They each had active roles when it came to building the Dome and then the Ice Palace, and the Trib took a controversial role when it came to building the stadium for the Bucks.
Mayor Bill Foster wasn't even expected to attend this morning's meeting in St. Petersburg, but surprised council by dropping off his letter to Rays owner Stu Sternberg. That letter has put essentially the entire long-term planning process for baseball in Tampa Bay on hold, preventing even the city's partner in funding a stadium, the county, from talking about it. Just as one Tampa Bay sports team is ready to close the book on its season, another is ready to write a new chapter. The team has always said, this is our home, we enjoy playing here, but at the same time, they're not afraid to drop those hints that maybe downtown St. Pete isn't the perfect place. In addition to avoiding injuries, Castellano says playing multiple sports builds better athletes. Baseball helps with hand-eye coordination, basketball with agility, and football by building strength. The team isn't leaving Tropicana Field anytime soon, and today the mayor reiterated his claim that they're not leaving St. Petersburg anytime soon either. The final report from the ABC Coalition says those issues need to be put aside for the greater good of the Tampa Bay community. They say baseball can succeed here in the long term, but not in downtown St. Pete. It's just too remote of a location. From the Dome to your doorstep, it's the headline maker you can't avoid. As the Rays Stadium debate scorches into another summer, the two big papers in town add fuel to the flames.
I've looked at both papers' coverage. Both sides have had coverage that clearly points out that it's either or not a good idea to move the stadium across the bay.
Longtime journalism professor Randy Miller says when it comes to a potential new home for the Rays, the St. Pete Times and Tampa Tribune haven't exactly knocked their coverage out of the park. Instead of impartial analysis of a huge financial issue, Miller says readers often get subtle cheerleading through the tone and frequency of coverage.
I think it would be better if you had a more balanced approach. But I'm not surprised that it's not.
This isn't the first time the papers have gotten involved in the stadium debate. They each had active roles when it came to building the Dome and then the Ice Palace, and the Trib took a controversial role when it came to building the stadium for the Bucks.
I wanted to bring everything and anything I could in sports here. It didn't matter what it was.
We were told that our coverage would be limited to finding solutions to the stadium, which meant that we were not free to go out there and explore the issue from all sides.
Former Trib editor John Sugg and former sports editor Tom McEwen were on different sides of the referendum debate in 1996. McEwen, now fighting cancer from his Davis Islands home, recalls using the pages of the Trib to garner support for the taxpayer-funded stadium.
About me, I was just trying to do something for the town, and if I could get it done, it didn't matter how, which may or may not have been a conflict of interest.
Sugg said it was that conflict of interest and one-sided coverage that forced him to leave the paper.
They started describing the critics as cranks, so I was a crank, okay, because I opposed spending $1 billion on giving $1 billion to Malcolm Glazer.
McEwen doesn't make any apologies, nor does the Trib. They wouldn't comment on historical coverage, but said right now there's no cheerleading of a possible Rays move to Tampa. An editor wrote us, "Our readers want to know where a stadium will be built, how it will be financed, and what will happen if it isn't built. Our readers expect the coverage, and we will supply it." The Times stands behind its objectivity in covering the Rays too, saying the city-centric attitude that helped get Tropicana Field built in the 80s has been replaced with a regional approach, but that its counterpart across the Bay hasn't followed suit.
The St. Pete Times is interested on the editorial page on keeping the team in Tampa Bay, and the Tampa Tribune's editorial page has been much more interested in the possibility of moving the team to downtown Tampa.
One thing that everyone's on the same page with is that money that's been there for the area's other stadiums is a lot harder to come by these days.
I'm glad I don't have to push it that hard anymore. I'm glad it's in somebody else's court. But if it were in mine, I'd certainly go for it.
With plenty of headlines to be written before the stadium saga is settled, it's a good bet that there will be plenty of support for the Rays, both on the field and off. Noah Pransky, 10 Connects. Twins strength and conditioning coach Perry Castellano has his players throw a lot.
All of a sudden you wake up and you can't lift your arm the next day.
Coming into our camp, they have to have their arms ready.
But back at home, his future stars hardly have time for a catch.
When my kids are done with their, Little League season, be it as May, if it's July or August, they don't pretty much pick a ball up until they're getting ready to start their next baseball season. And in between, they're going to play basketball, they're going to play soccer, they're going to play football.
While an increasing number of parents think focusing their kids on one activity all year long will make them better athletes, Castellanos says the opposite is true.
They're destroying their kids' bodies.
So much so that 9 to 14-year-olds who throw more than 8 months a year are 500% more likely to require arm surgery. And as single sport specialization increases, so do the number of kids undergoing surgery. According to data just released by high-profile surgeon Dr. James Andrews, the number of kids undergoing ulnar collateral ligament, or Tommy John surgery, is soaring.
Kids are coming in his office begging for him to do Tommy John. That's really sad.
Named after the first major leaguer to come back from the surgery 29 years ago, the procedure removes a tendon from the wrist or hamstring and grafts it into the elbow. Nearly 100 big leaguers have done it, but these are pros who have been pitching for years. Not little leaguers, just starting their careers. In addition to avoiding injuries, Castellanos says playing multiple sports builds better athletes. Baseball helps with hand-eye coordination, basketball with agility, and football by building strength. But one athlete, the star of Twins spring training, says diversifying serves another purpose.
You know, it was kind of nice once one sport was ending, another one was starting up.
Joe Mauer, one of the country's top baseball and football prospects coming out of high school, ignored the pressure to focus on his specialties.
You know, a lot of people were telling me I was crazy for playing basketball my senior year of high school. You know, I knew it was going to be my last year, and I really enjoyed that season.
And while he doesn't hit the hardwood much anymore, Mauer still has fun with his other favorite hobby.
We all know you can't play these sports forever. You know, let him play it as long as he can.
Appropriate advice, considering even the best youth athletes are likely to go pro in a field other than sports. Noah Pransky, ABC 7. Well, the only time they used the word raise tonight, they were talking about fees and not baseball. But a second straight year of severe budget cuts alludes to a problem that anyone in Tampa Bay would have when it comes to building a stadium.
This has been a great process.
Cuts.
This is of grave concern to everyone.
Layoffs.
6 less firefighters on the street.
And fee hikes.
This one was tough, but we had to do it.
St. Pete City Council presented the rough draft of its 2011 budget, which eliminates 31 jobs and cuts back on services like libraries, pools, and firefighting. Other important services were spared this time around, but St. Pete is just like all the other Bay Area communities and expecting major deficits in 2012 as well.
So we could wind up with another $10 million challenge next year.
Couple the declining property values with the tourism threatening oil in the Gulf.
We must rise above municipal boundaries.
And it's no surprise the Monday announcement from the raise sent such a shockwave through City Hall.
Yeah, there couldn't have been a worse time.
But as bad as the timing may be, the city of St. Pete is actually in better financial shape than many of its neighboring communities. And council members say they're happy the raise have opened up the talks for long-term negotiations.
It's always good to discuss it. I would possibly have preferred a different first volley, but now that it's out there, it's open for discussion.
The Rays are a partner. We want to work with them, but they're a partner with the city of St. Petersburg.
The city attorney will brief council in the morning as to what their legal options are, while the mayor tells me later in the day he'll release a written statement in reply to the raise. Live in St. Petersburg, Noah Pransky, 10 Connects. Their uncanny contours have been a source of curiosity, ridicule, and controversy.
That ball was up into the rigging and made contact up there.
To lose a game in a pennant situation like that because of your roof, it's not cute.
But what exactly sits out there halfway to the baseball heavens on Tropicana Field's catwalks? Since no one else from 10 News is willing to join me, I'm on my own with just a few tools of the trade. A camera, a tripod, a heart rate monitor so you can see just exactly what I'm feeling, and a thermometer to see the temperatures soar as we get higher. My Sherpa is building operations manager Chris Rainieri. A ladder and a ramp later, we're on the first catwalk, the D-ring. Hanging 121 feet above the field, it's a home run if you hit it in fair territory, which has happened 20 times. The first thing I notice is the heat. We're above the stadium's air conditioning vents. Once you get above that level, it gets incredibly hot. Temperature into the 90s, heart rate also climbing into the 90s. As Chris soars up the stairs, I'm left in the dust. Literally, having never been cleaned, the catwalks are caked in dirt that predates even the devil rays. Landing on the C-ring, we're now 146 feet above the field. Hit this catwalk in fair territory, and it's a home run as well. It's also the most common target, with 61 balls drilling it in 13 years.
If it hit that ring and it did.
The C-ring is home to stadium lights and television transmitters. And even though it's hard to see, the catwalks are slanted down toward the outfield. And they rock as you walk. It's a bad combination, which sends my nerves through the roof.
Every step is methodical. Thinking about every single place I put my feet and my hands.
The B-ring, sitting 170 feet above the field, has been hit 25 times and is considered in play.
Heart rate in the 140s.
Maybe that's because there's no such thing as a sturdy step when you're 170 feet above home plate. Climbing to the top ring without any safety equipment, we pass 186 feet. That's the height of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Then at 190 feet, the A-ring. Jason Kubel's pop-up last week struck right where I had to sit and gather myself, because looking down, things like the raise tank, the press box, and the workers grooming the field look like ants.
Temperature up toward 100 degrees, close to 200 feet above the playing field. We've gone high enough.
At the top of the Trop, Noah Pransky, 10 News.